When his time at Yokai Academy is complete, is he going to remain in the human world, or is he going to move to the monster world? Is he going to be committed to Moka, or is he just going to shrug his shoulders and continue this weird relationship that he has with everybody? So, with that premonition, Season 1 of the manga ends, and now Season 2, it begins. So Season 2 of Rosario Vampire begins with the return of Tsukune and his friends to Yokai Academy. The first chapter begins with some mischief going on, with Yukari using an aphrodisiac on Moka. Tsukune doesn't realize this, and he thinks that this is finally a time that he and Moka can finally share a moment together that doesn't get interrupted. But of course it does, by inner Moka this time, and she beats him up, explains to him the situation, and she tells him that she's never going to fall for a fool like him. So yeah, inner Moka is still playing hard to get, but that's nothing new. So a few more chapters after this actually follow the rom-com stuff like the first chapter, and it's definitely worth the read, and it's fun, but I'm just going to cover some of the important details. One of these details is that Moka's younger sister, Coco, arrives at Yokai Academy. Coco has always felt inferior to her older sisters, but she still loves them deeply. The only problem is that she doesn't respect the outer Moka, and she doesn't think of her as her real sister, because she's cutesy and she's always trying to drink Tsukune's blood. The next thing that comes up is our main man's struggle with the vampire blood within his veins. So these bad guys confront our friends, and in order to protect them, Tsukune uses his vampire powers. Unfortunately, it consumes him and he becomes wild, but his friends are able to knock him back to reality, and it's okay. After that, we then have some chapters where Yukari and Coco struggle with wanting to grow up, and ultimately they come to the terms that they're just gonna have to wait. And then we have a Jin chapter where Jin decides to play the villain to cover for a girl that was a serial prankster. She really liked Jin, and she just wanted Jin to notice her, so she pulled some pranks on these girls. Instead of her life being ruined, Jin decided to take the blame, and he pretended to be a bad guy so that she would get over him. So the first 9 chapters are pretty much devoted to establishing what's going on in Season 2. So Tsukune is still struggling to manage his vampire powers. Outer Moka is still in love with Tsukune, but Inner Moka is playing hard to get. Kurumu is still struggling with her unrequited love. And both Coco and Yukari, they're struggling to come to terms that they're just going to have to wait until they get older. Mizori is still tagging along. And lastly, Jin is becoming more and more of a good guy and no longer a selfish guy. When we get to chapter 10, however, this is when the series truly starts to end. Everything before chapter 10 of season 2 has been building up all of the characters in the world itself. Despite everything that has happened already, both bad and good, things have been peaceful when compared to what happens next. In chapter 10 of season 2, it is revealed that Mizori is going to turn 17. For Mizori's species, age 17 is when they are assigned to their partner and they have to start having children. Her species only has a short window of breeding after turning 17, and although she doesn't say exactly how short it is such a big deal that she invites Tsukune and her friends to her home in order to sleep with Tsukune, if only for just one night. The reason why Mizori wants to do this is that her species does not get to choose who they marry. Their partners are assigned by their leader, the Snow Priestess, through prophecy, in order to keep the species from dying out. Mizori loves this guy, and after this night, she'll be set up with a man that she doesn't love. She most assuredly won't be with Tsukune. Mizori's plan fails, however, because the Snow Priestess finds her and takes her away. The Snow Priestess actually tells her that she's going to marry this guy called Mayabi. Now, Mayabi reveals that she and he aren't being married because of prophecy. They're actually being married as an act of politics. He's part of this organization called Fairy Tale, and he just wants to own the land, and the priestess wants to keep the land from dying. Tsukune and his friends then go on a mission to get Mizori back, and they get guns to threaten anyone who gets in their way. And they actually got these guns from Mizori's mom, and I just think this is fucking funny. Everybody eventually fights, but then we are introduced to another sister of Moka. Her name is Kailua, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and she's an assassin for Fairy Tale. Despite that, she's still very clumsy and childish, and as she fights, she cries because she actually doesn't want to kill people. But she still does what she is told, and she has been taking orders even when she was just a little girl. What makes Kailua, again I hope I'm saying this correctly, so dangerous is that she has the ability to momentarily ignore her pain. So when she's fighting and getting hurt, she doesn't feel anything and she continues fighting, even if by the end she could die. After the fighting is over though, all that damage that she had taken will slowly catch up to her. By that time, her mission is probably already completed. For this mission though, Mayumi cancels Kailua's orders to kill everyone, because if allowed to continue, she might die. Mizori's home is saved, and she no longer has to marry someone. She's allowed to continue pursuing Tsukune, for better or for worse. So if you can't tell, Fairy Tail is going to be the main enemy force against their heroes for the rest of the series, and they are much in line with Antithesis from Season 1. Fairy Tail actually wants exactly the same thing that Hokuto wanted. In fact, something interesting to note is that monster called Kiria that fed Hokuto his blood and turned into a ghoul, the same guy that has been Hokuto's friend, even when Hokuto thinks that he doesn't have any friends, well, he's been part of Fairy Tail all along. So after his first confrontation with Fairy Tail, Tsukune is then tasked with training to become stronger. Over several chapters, he learns how to use this whip called Belmont, an homage of Castlevania. He learns how to fight with his fists. He learns from Moka how to detect danger, like Spider-Man, so have his spider sense. He gains confidence in fighting enemies when he's the only one that is allowed to fight. And after that, Tsukune and Moka embrace each other in the hope that despite all of the troubles in their relationship, including the fact that he's a human and she's a vampire, that somehow all of this will work out in the end, so that way in the future, they will surely be together. After this, we get introduced to this mafioso. So this is Juan Fanfan, son of a mafia boss. Despite being a boy, he wants himself and Tsukune to be married together, so that way Tsukune is bonded to his mafia family and can then be a strong asset. The only problem is that Tsukune isn't gay, and he also doesn't like the mafia. So in this case, Tsukune is now the one who's playing hard to get. We then have some more rom-com chapters where Inner Moka starts spending more time outside. She starts bonding more with her friends, she starts bonding more with Tsukune, she starts hanging out with him more. She's thinking more and more about how she feels about him, and this is a lot of fun. But then something bad happens. After having a wonderful day with the guy she loves, Inner Moka attempts to seal herself back up. However, it doesn't work. Juan Fanfan then appears again, and it turns out that Moka's rosary is only temporary. Someday, the rosary is no longer going to work, and when this happens, the Moka that Tsukune loves, the outer Moka, she'll be gone. However, there's a possibility that the seal can be fixed. It can actually be fixed by one of the three Great Dark Lord guys. And coincidentally, one of those Great Dark Lords just happens to be an ancestor to Juan Fanfan. So with that, Tsukune and the gang pack up their bags, and they now travel to Hong Kong. So when our heroes arrive to Fanfan's mansion, it appears that a rival mafia group, I think called the Mew, I don't know how to pronounce that correctly, is present, and they are attempting to kill everyone. So Fanfan reveals that his family and this rival mafia family have been fighting more often now, ever since the rival family formed an alliance with Fairy Tail. In light of these increased attacks, Fanfan heard from within the underworld that Tsukune managed to stand up against Fairy Tail, and he managed to get a victory. That is actually why Fanfan wants Tsukune to join his mafia family. Fanfan also reveals that he is the child of both the Juan family and the rival mafia family. The marriage of his parents was a symbol of peace between the families, and Fanfan truly believed that he could achieve this from a young age. But in this moment of despair, he thinks that his dream was foolish. But thanks to our good man writer, being the good guy he is, he encourages him not to give up on his dream because he too has a foolish dream. Tsukune's dream is that someday, monsters and humans can live in peace. So now that they're both re-energized, they think about guns a-blazing. But then Fanfan sees his mom and his dad and he's confused. And guess what? It turns out that it was just a prank, bro. They were just stalling for time in order to set up stuff to welcome Fanfan's first friends. Ain't that wacky? Well, after this, we finally meet the founder of the Juan family, Tuhu Fuhai. So Tuhu Fuhai is an old pervert and he's pretty funny, and he quickly starts working on the seal of Moka's rosary. He tells Moka that he was actually an old friend of her mother, and we learn that she just somehow disappeared one day. Now, while working on Moka's seal, Tuhu Fuhai realized that the seal to Moka's rosary isn't used to limit Moka's powers. In fact, it turns out that it is used to suppress memories. So Tsukune and the gang, through a turn of events, they get sucked into the rosary, and now we get to see what these hidden memories were. These memories are from when Moka was just a child, and we see that Moka's mother, Akasha, just happens to look exactly like the outward Moka. Interesting. Another thing that happens here is that Moka meets a new addition to her family, and this person happens to be Shuzan Akawa, Moka's older sister. So later on from this meeting, some bad guys try to hurt Moka, but she is then saved by her new sister. The bonds that form between them grow, but how the bond that formed between Tsukune and Hokuto turned out to be false, so does this one. Aqua reveals to Moka that underneath the mansion lies the remains of Alucard, the oldest vampire and the vampire that tried to wipe out all of humanity. Alucard was so powerful because he had Shinso blood, making him super strong. Aqua wants the power to take over the world as well, and in order to do that, she will need the Shinso blood from the leader of the three Dark Lords, the person who helped take down Alucard. That person just happens to be Moka's mother, Akasha. So Akasha attempts to send Moka away, but that fails, so she ends up interfering in the fight between Akasha and Aqua. Akasha gets cut in half, and Moka freaks out, and it turns out that Moka has Shinso blood too, which confuses Aqua. So the reason why Moka has Shinso blood is that when she was born, she was on the verge of death, and in order to save her, her mom transfused that blood to her. You can't obtain this power, this blood, through inheritance. You can only obtain it through a transfusion. So while Moka is fighting her sister, her Shinso blood actually awakens Alucard. And it turns out that when Akasha took down Alucard hundreds of years ago, the Shinso blood between them synchronized. So when that same blood running through Moka's veins becomes activated, so was the dead Alucard. This results in Alucard wanting to absorb Moka, and also the death of Akasha. Akasha saves her daughter by allowing herself to be absorbed by Alucard, so that way she can seal him away from inside of him. Akasha also begins to seal her daughter away in order to put Alucard back to rest. It is here that we learn that the outer Moka, the person that Tsukune loves very deeply, she's actually a fake personality constructed by the Rosary. This is one of the most startling and saddening moments of the manga. It turns out that the girl that Tsukune is in love with, the girl that he wants to spend the rest of his life with, she's not even real. She's merely just a copy of Inner Moka's mom. Akasha dies, the memories start to fall apart, and in their escape, consumed by darkness and shock, Tsukune falls into the chaos. As Tsukune falls deeper and deeper, we explore more of Moka's memories. We learn that Akasha has put so much willpower into the Rosary that the personality manifested shocks the headmaster. In his view, he sees it as Akasha still protecting her daughter, even though she is gone. Despite knowing that the love of his life isn't real, and despite the love of his life in front of him truly being only a memory, Tsukune confesses his love, resolving his commitment. This right here is the most beautiful and heartbreaking moment in the entire manga. Tsukune is then rescued, and when returned from Moka's memories, he and his friends are hidden away by Tuhufuhai because while Tsukune was sucked up in Moka's memories, Aqua attacks Fonfon's mansion in order to capture her sister. Also, it turns out that Tuhufuhai's real form isn't that of an old man. That form is only to hide his immense power and to elongate his life. His real form is this. So Tuhu and Aqua fight, but ultimately, in order to prevent any more bloodshed, Moka gives herself up in the end. Now, Tsukune has lost Moka again, and everything seems hopeless. However, at the end of this event, an old friend appears. That old friend is Hokuto, but actually he's not really an old friend. He just wants to overthrow the current command of Fairy Tail, and aligning with Tsukune is a possibility of doing that. And while Moka is in the hands of her sister, it turns out that the seal has been fixed, and now Aqua will have to continue abiding by the promise she made to Akasha, not to harm Moka. From this point on, Tsukune decides that he only wants one thing. He just wants to become stronger, so that way he can finally save Moka. So Tsukune tries to train, but this is no good. He's way too far behind in his present state, and the only option that Tuhufuhai sees is to modify his body. However, the risk is great, and if it fails, he will die. And during all of this, and many times in Season 2, Kurumu's unrequited love just becomes worse and worse. And actually during this point, during all this, when Moka has been captured, this is actually the worst point in her unrequited love. So Tsukune's body modification then begins, and it is incredibly painful. He loses consciousness before the procedure can be completed, but his willpower is too strong, and because of this, Tsukune becomes a ghoul. It appears that he is now lost, but through Kurumu's love, she's able to distract him, which gives Tuhu the opportunity to finish the procedure. Now, Tsukune is strong enough to save Moka. But what is he? Is he still human? Is he a monster? It's not clear, but that doesn't really matter at this point. It's now time to save Moka. And where is she? Well, Moka is at Fairy Tail's headquarters, a floating garden in the sky. Moka was taken in order to revive Alucard by awakening her Shinso blood with the inner Moka. But guess who gets there to stop it? Our heroes. Unfortunately, they get found out very quickly, so they have to fight, and fight they do. In the lead up to saving Moka, everyone in the group of friends gets the chance to shine in their fights against Fairy Tail's leaders. Ruby proves her abilities by defeating a lightning monster. With the help of Yukari, Fanfan proves to be a worthy successor of his family. With the help of Ruby, Tsukune fights the leader of the student police from Yokai Academy again, and he gains the confidence to truly use his whole strength. And Kurumu and Mizori, they try to save Moka, but they fail, and this results in the Rosary Seal breaking and awakening both Inner Moka and Alucard. Tsukune then fights Aqua, and for the first time, the barrier to Inner Moka's heart is let down, and she finally feels a strong attraction to our main man right here. You see, from Inner Moka's point of view, she believed that someday, Tsukune would actually run away from her. And this is because Tsukune can't really protect himself, and how he would constantly need Inner Moka to protect him. And because of this, she thought that this would push him away from her. But she was wrong. So more stuff happens, and it turns out that Moka's rosary can control Alucard. Yeah. Sure. So from here, a lot of stuff happens that can be summarized as they fight, or just, well, actually, and it's like, ever since Tsukune in the game got to the Fairy Tail Fortress, a lot of this happens. And I know some people might think that, for the sake of this retrospective, I should go over, play by play, every one of the twists and turns, the backstabs, and the betrayals, and they fight, and, well, actually, and in my opinion, there's too many of those to recount. I think it would take too long, it would be forever to do, and I also think, for you guys, it would be boring, so I'm not going to do that. All that really needs to be known here is that all of those problems, even going down to like the very small problems, or even problems that you just learned about like right now, or even like 2 seconds ago, all of those get resolved here. And this even goes down to very small problems, or even small little situations, like with Hokuto and Kiria. So, to summarize, this section is pretty much just, let's just get these arcs over with. So after tons of fights, we then learn a new twist. So Moka's rosary actually doesn't control Alucard. It is actually a link to Moka's mom, and therefore Moka's other mom, called Gyokuru, by the way, she's the leader of Fairy Tail. I know this is, I'm sorry about this, but there's just so much going on right now, it's kind of hard to explain everything. But anyway, Moka's other mom, Gyokuru, who is the mother of her sisters Quella and Koko, well, her plan to control Alucard was doomed from the start. So the good guys win, until this guy called the Masked King shows up, and he tells us that everything that Tsukune did was what he wanted from the start. Alright, so I know that there may be some confusion, and I try my best to organize all this, and I'm being serious. Look, I have a 19-page script here. Like, I really tried to organize all this, but this guy is really the main bad guy. He's really the guy who's been behind the curtain, pulling the strings. So, who is this Masked King? The Masked King is Miyabi. Oh wait, no, sorry, that's a fake name. Miyabi actually isn't Miyabi. So, who is Miyabi? Miyabi is actually Alucard. No wait, actually that's not his true name. Later on we learned that his name is Dracula, but when his utopia of humans and monsters failed, he then changes to Alucard. So Miyabi isn't Miyabi, he's actually Alucard, which is just his name change from his real name, which is Dracula. Look, I really like this story, but for God's sake, this story has more twists than a fucking pretzel. So how does all of this make any sense? Alright, so before Alucard was defeated by Akasha and the other two great Dark Lords hundreds of years ago, he made a clone. So this guy is Alucard, but not really, but yes, really. I know, confusing. The real Alucard is the monster. This guy is just his offspring, which is part of the will of Alucard. He's pretty much like one of the Sins from Fullmetal Alchemist that act on their own, but they are still a part of Father. At this point in the story, Alucard successfully attacks the human world. Alucard's true form is then revealed, and the personality that was created by Moka's rosary, that disappears. Moka is about to die, and in order to save her, Tsukune takes off his holy lock. With the help of their friends, Tsukune and Moka are able to resist this intensity, and now they are newly reborn Shinso vampires. You heard me right. Tsukune has finally become a vampire. Guess what? We have another twist. So by using Moka's rosary, Moka's mom is able to be revived. We also learned that the fake personality of Moka was actually just a clone of Akasha this entire time. So once again, Tsukune has to see the love of his life die, for to end Alucard once and for all, the Akasha clone, Outer Moka, has to sacrifice herself. Time passes, and through some funny turns of events, Tsukune meets Moka's dad and he learns something interesting. Since coming back to Yokai Academy after the fight with Alucard, our main man here has noticed that Moka doesn't act like the cold person she once was. Moka is acting very differently, and she actually seems a lot happier. Moka's father informs him that although the Outer Moka, the clone of Akasha, lost its form, her soul still remained in the body. So over time, the Outer and the Inner Moka souls will become one. So after the despair of losing Moka so many times already, and through all of the struggles that Tsukune had to go through, he managed to get something good in the end. So this is where the whole story ends. Our main characters are still in school, and we don't really get to find out what they end up doing. So, now that we've finished the story, I think it would be a good idea if I finally talk about that central theme, the whole idea, what the whole story is about, that I didn't want to spoil a long time ago.